As a design consultant, one of the things you may hear come up often is the concept of yield. And today in this video, I want to talk to you about the two different types of yield that you may hear discussed and how they're related and why they matter. So the first type of yield you may hear about is the yield of land, right? So the physical yield of the parcel in discussion for development. And the way you find out what the land yield is by taking the physical footprint of the parcel and then subtracting out anything that might need to be removed. Those could be regulatory constraints, setbacks, and the like. Those could be wetlands that aren't developable. Those could be easements where you're not allowed to build certain types of uh, development. Other types may still be allowed, so it's a little bit confusing on the easement front. But what you're doing is you're taking the overall footprint of the parcel and then subtracting out areas that you can't develop on. What's left is the yield, right? So it's the developable acreage divided by the total acreage is your land yield. Related to that, but not the same thing, is the financial yield. And when you hear a developer talk about financial yield, they're usually talking about yield on cost. So what is the financial return in NOI, net operating income, divided by the total cost of the project? And that is your yield on cost. And when we're discussing financial yield and land yield, those two things can be related because one of the things that you have to account for in your land yield, or several other things actually, may impact your financial yield. So two of those things are your parking arrangement. If you're using surface parking or structured parking, you can actually yield more developable land because less land will be taken up by parking if you're using structured parking because you can stack all those cars on top of each other. The other aspect is your stormwater management. So if you're using an above ground storm pond or an on the ground storm pond, then that takes up developable land. Whereas if you use underground storm detention, then you can obviously build more building and because you're taking up less land for storm ponds. So again, those two things are related because they also drive costs. Structured parking is more expensive, as is underground storm detention. And those two things are related, but at the end of the day, the goal of the developer is to maximize the yield of that land, both the physical yield and the financial yield. And what that allows for a developer to do is either increase their returns, or more importantly, increase the amount that they're able to pay for the land. And in a competitive situation where land is a scarce resource, which is often the case in most growing communities, the person who can pay more for the land is going to walk away with the deal. Therefore, they're always trying to maximize what they can pay for the land just above what their competitors can pay. So land yield and financial yield are related, but they're not the same thing. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Please drop them in the comments below. Thanks.